After spending quite some time in the southern part of Tucson exploring desert plants and greenhouses, I traveled north through the Sonoran Desert to the Tohono Chul Park. The name is derived from the native peoples living in the area, known as the Tohono Chul Nation, which has the second largest reservation in the United States. The well-appointed, exquisitely landscaped park, which was once private land, sprawls across 49 acres and boasts over 600 different species of plants, including some of the rarer species of desert flora. Before getting a full tour of the park, which will come in a future episode, we headed over to meet up with Tracy Till to tour their propagation greenhouses to learn how they propagate some of the arid-loving species.
I'm Tracy Till, and I'm a propagation associate at Tohono Chul. And right now we are standing in front of our propagation greenhouse where all the baby plants come out of here. So we have a separate one that's just for cactus and succulents, but this is the leafy plant greenhouse. And we grow native and arid-adapted plants for the Sonoran Desert, and we provide them to the community. We sell them from our retail greenhouse at Tohono Chul. And Tohono Chul is an awesome garden that's like a little oasis in Tucson.
Is it an official botanical garden, or is it a private estate, or what is it?
So it's a private nonprofit. Somebody donated their land. They didn't want it to go to development because in the 80s, land was starting to be more developed, and they knew this would probably turn into a strip mall or something. So they decided to turn it into a garden to preserve it for the community.
Well, take us through the propagation house. We'd love to see what you're propagating. And
okay.
These are not plants that I've grown up with, so it'll be interesting to see what you're doing.
Oh, here's something cool, actually.
Yeah.
So we have an ethno-botanical garden that you'll see later. And these are some beans. So these are lima beans and tepary beans, and then also some okra. And they're going to be grown out and provided to the bistro and also to the community when they stop by. On certain Saturdays, we provide vegetables.
So you have a bistro here where you do like kind of local food and local fare.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we have this cage to protect it from the
Squirrels
wild critters.
and rats.
Yeah, all the wild critters that live in the garden. So
I saw a lot of the wild critters on the way here, and they seem so tame. they didn't really run away.
Yeah, they are kind of used to people. So here we have one of our cutting areas. So this is where we do stem cuttings. This is yerba manta, and it's actually really easy to propagate. You just cut one of the runners and stick it in the soil. This is Mexican bush sage, and it's actually already starting to grow roots. We have it in a mixture of perlite and vermiculite.
Is this a mist house, or do you have to water everything by hand here?
We actually mist it by hand. We're starting to update the greenhouse. We are getting a mister installed, but
I mean, they look like they're taking pretty well. Now, I noticed that this one is really heavy in perlite, whereas others have some vermiculite and whatnot. How do you know what seedling mix is like the best mix for what you're propagating?
Oh, I would say trial and error and record keeping is really important because each plant is a little different. So this is an agastaki, which actually kind of smells
hummingbird
nice.
mint.
Yeah, mint. And we hadn't tried it before, so we were just making sure it has drainage, so we didn't want it to rot.
A lot of these are xeric drought-adapted plants, so they're ones that probably would need good drainage pretty much almost throughout their life. Yeah,
with cuttings, you want them to be moist but not soggy so that they can root, and some are easier than others. We've had good luck with propagating autumn sage from cuttings, but there's some things that are tricky, like sandpaper bush is one of the hardest plants. We've only gotten to propagate it a couple of times.
Is it a woody? It's
a woody one.
Yeah, okay.
And it's also really sporadic. Like the seeds don't always germinate, and they don't always have like an actual seedling in there. They're not always pollinated. So that's one we're experimenting with.
How many different types of species do you think you propagate?
It's definitely in the hundreds. Not all in 1 year, though. This is Salvia coccinea that we just planted a couple weeks ago, actually, and it's already starting to
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
I mean, the leaves, sometimes when you first put a cutting in, the leaves look a little flaccid and everything.
Oh, yeah.
But, these look quite ready, and some of these guys are even flowering already.
Yeah, so we started these in March, and we let them be in their flats with the well-draining media for about a month, and that's when we check them. Yeah, after about a month, we check them to see if they're growing roots, and then we can pot them up, give them their own pot. When we're taking cuttings, we actually tend to use this product. It works pretty well. You just...
Is it a rooting hormone?
Yeah, it's actually a rooting hormone. And I just want to give you an example. So this is an Cactus quadrifotis, and I just trimmed some this morning. When you're doing cuttings, especially from outside plants, you want to do it in the morning so that it's not too hot and they're still fresh. So you want to look for pieces that aren't flowering yet. So you want to know when your plant's going to flower so you can do it before then. And you want to take pieces that they're a little bendy and new at the end, but then towards the base where you're cutting, it's just a little bit woodier. So it has a little more nutrients and energy stored in that woody material. And that's where the roots are going to come out of, where the little nodes are. And
so do you take the last couple leaves off?
Oh, yeah. So you'll just pinch off the leaves, because the leaves transpire a lot of water. And actually, a lot of the time, we just trim them like that.
Right.
And then I would actually get a little container of this and dip the end in here. And you want to make sure to get some nodes in the rooting hormone. And the nodes are like where the little buds are that leaves come out of. That's actually where the roots are going to come out of.
That's where the meristematic cells are, where it could differentiate into the roots.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Are you keeping them in the water here just so they don't transpire and they turn flaccid, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But those are going to be rooted today.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Let's see. Now let's talk about our seedlings. So we have lots of seedlings growing here. We have all different species, and we collect most of our seeds actually from the garden. So we walk through the garden throughout the year. We watch for the phenology of the plants to see what stage the plants are in, to see if they're going to flower. And we want to make sure to catch the seeds before the animals do, so that we can propagate them. And this is a coral bean, and we just planted them a few weeks ago, and they're already sprouting. Beans are fun to grow because once they absorb water and it's like warm enough in the soil, they sprout pretty readily. But we actually had to use a Dremel tool to scarify the seed because it's a big red bean, and I can show you that later.
Yeah.
In order for it to be able to absorb water, sometimes you have to use like a Dremel tool or sandpaper for different seeds, or even hydrochloric acid to get the seed coats open, because in the desert it's so harsh. The seeds need to be able to survive and wait for the rain. And so some of them have adapted either to be scarified by the wash, the sandy washes, or even being eaten by like javelinas.
And then pooped out on the other end.
Yeah, and then they have their own fertilizer. So I wanted to show you a few of the seeds.
Ooh, they're funky.
Yeah, so these are actually
bright.
These are actually the coral beans,
Nice.
Erythrina flabelliformis of this coral bean tree, and they're really fun to grow. They actually get like a fat base when they get older, but the seeds are pretty hard. You can't really scratch them with sandpaper that well. It's easier to just use a Dremel tool. Yeah. And then you soak them for overnight. A lot of the beans, that's what we do. Oh, speaking of beans, we actually have some native trees in the Sonoran Desert that are legumes, and a lot of people don't know that. But we have these tree pots that allow these legume trees. One of their adaptations is actually taproots. So these pots allow their taproot to go down to the bottom and get air pruned so that they can grow healthy roots without getting root bound.
And which ones of the Fabaceae are these?
Oh, yes.
Two?
So this is actually the redbird of paradise. This is the redbird of paradise that gets beautiful orangey red flowers. And it's sort of a tall shrub tree. And then, let's see, this one is actually Lysoloma, fern bush. But it, where it's not freezing, it can actually become a nice tree. Yeah, we have a lot of different species. We have like 10 different species here coming up.
And these are nitrogen fixers in the area, so they'll actually help with the nutrients within the soil.
Yeah, because they, a lot of them, most of these are deciduous, so when they drop their leaves, they're creating like a nitrogen-rich humus layer for other plants to live in, and they're improving the soil. A lot of them are nurse trees too, or a baby cactus, because they have sort of fine leaves that cast a dappled shade that isn't really dark, so it lets some light through and allows plants like queen of the night cactus, mammillaria to be a little bit protected from the elements. And the crown of the trees also protect them from freezing, which is important because even though it gets really hot in the Sonoran Desert, it can also freeze in the winter at night. I would say these legumes are pretty easy to grow. You want to collect seeds fresh from the trees, and you want to freeze them in the freezer for a few days to kill any weevils, because the first time I collected a bunch of seeds, I was really excited. Like I collected a whole bunch, and then like a month later, I opened the bag and it was full of bugs, and I was sad. So when you're doing any revegetation of native plants, with native plants, you want to make sure to get rid of bugs. Ooh, another technique we use for propagating is actually putting some seeds in some moist perlite and then putting them in the fridge. And that will mimic winter. And maybe some of you have tried that with like flower seeds. This way we can grow them any time of the year and get them ready to go. We have a soil sterilization set up so we can reuse our soil.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we actually use pressure cookers to heat it up to boiling, and we do that for like about 20 minutes, and then we let it cool and we can reuse it. And we also wash our pots to get rid of any diseases.
That's great.
Yeah.
And what's this giant thing?
This is where we wash the pots to get any mealy bugs out or anything. Yep. Because we go through a lot of pots.
I'd imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually sterilize them in some bleach right here. So we scrub them and then bleach them in here, and then they dry.
Great. You have like a whole assembly line going here.
Yes. We have some shade houses, but we also just put them under this mesquite tree when they first come out of the greenhouse, and then they can get used to the dry air out here because it's a lot drier outside and hotter. And then some of them are shade plants, so they'll stay here, and then other ones will go into the sun where they can get big and strong. And we have some little baby rain lilies that just came out. These will have pink flowers, Zephranthes grandiflora. We also have some baby trees. This is actually a Brazilwood tree that we grew from seeds from Tohono Chul gardens that we collected from a tree. And we have some of the autumn sage that you saw that we did from cuttings. These are ones that got to come outside.
They're pretty.
Yeah. We sell a lot of our flowers in 1 gallons. Yeah, we have the retail nursery open year-round. And then we have 2 big plant sales. The spring one is usually in March, and then one that's in October.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is the Cactus Prop House, and it's actually the original building that we used back in the 80s for selling our plants. And now, since it's a nice screened-in house, we use it to grow succulents and cactus. And a lot of the propagation we do is from cuttings for cactus and succulents, as you guys might know.
Yeah,
they are pretty good at just rooting from stem cuttings and leaf cuttings.
I just leave them. I leave them wherever they lie, and they get those little root hairs on.
Yeah, so that's pretty satisfying. Pretty good success rate with those. But we're also growing some cactus from seed, and so I brought some to show you. These are some special little cactus. This is Acanthocereus oaxacensis. And I hope I said that right. And it's related to Peniocereus. They changed the name recently. But
those are like the long, thin, Peniocereus, the long, thin cacti.
Yeah, so its previous name was Peniocereus oaxacensis. And we just grew them from seeds that we collected in the garden because we have some stock plants that are pretty old. And then this is actually from one of our own seeds. This is Queen of the Night, Peniocereus gregii. And we grew it last year, and just from seed. And so it came out of the seed, and the cactus actually have cotyledons too.
Yeah,
they're really
that's
fleshy.
so cute. Yeah.
And then the cactus body comes right out of the middle.
It looks like little lips, you know, like a little
Yeah, it
pucker.
does. It does. And Pennioserius greggii is unique because it actually grows this tuber. This one already has one.
Oh wow!
But when they get old, they can actually be up to like 20 or 30 pounds, like a watermelon.
Like the tuber can actually be
Yeah.
up to 20 or 30 pounds. Wow.
Yeah, and I believe they're edible actually, which is pretty cool. So it was like a traditional food in the Sonoran Desert. But now we just try to preserve the plants, at least at our garden. Pretty cool. Yeah. This was donated from one of our volunteers. A lot of our volunteers bring in cuttings from their houses. This is actually Echinopsis LA. And it's got a pretty flower. Yep, she just separated it from the rest of the cactus, let it callus for a few weeks, and then stuck it in the soil. And it's already blooming.
Now, with plantings around here at Tohono Chul, do you tend to just have like year-round perennial plants and you're kind of upkeeping it with maintenance, or do you do kind of seasonal things where like a typical botanic garden might switch something out or swap something out?
Oh, we get really attached to our plants. We typically do have perennial plantings that we upkeep
Nice.
throughout the year, yeah.
Stay tuned here on Plant One On Me because we'll be doing a symphonic tour through the park. Now, if you want to keep seeing botanically oriented content like this, do us a favor and help the channel grow by liking, subscribing, and hitting the notifications button. 1% of our Google AdSense proceeds are donated back to plant conservation annually. Additionally, we have a suite of online houseplant courses that you could check out, from the Houseplant Masterclass to the 125 Houseplant Care Spreadsheet. Just head over to homesteadbrooklyn.com to see what we have to offer. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video.